There's something about small towns that breeds both comfort and unease. The familiarity of the faces you've known your whole life, the routines etched into the very streets. It's all very cozy, until it isn't. Until you start to wonder if there's more beyond those familiar horizons, or worse, what secrets might be lurking behind those friendly smiles. Persona 4 understands this dichotomy all too well. It drops us into Inaba, a sleepy rural town that could be the poster child for nothing ever happens here, right up until bodies start showing up strung from TV antennas. Our protagonist arrives in this powder keg of a town just as things are about to get weird. And folks, in a game where you fight manifestations of the human psyche by summoning aspects of your own personality, weird is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Now, I could dive into the intricacies of the plot, but if you're watching this, chances are you're already familiar with the story of a group of spirited teens solving a murder mystery by jumping into TVs. What I want to focus on is how Persona 4 uses its supernatural elements to explore very real, very human struggles. Persona 4 is a game about identity. It's about the masks we wear, the personas if you will, and the parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden. Each member of our ragtag group of investigators is grappling with some sort of aspect of their identity. Kanji's struggling with the societal expectations of masculinity, Yukiko's fighting against a predetermined future, and Rise's trying to find herself beneath her public image. But for all its supernatural trappings, Persona 4's true strength lies in its quieter moments. The conversations over beef bowls, the cultural festival preparations, the part-time jobs that somehow never interfere with your world-saving schedule. These social links aren't just a way to power up your personas. They're the heart of the game's exploration of human connection. So let's talk about our merry band of misfits. If you took Scooby-Doo and animeified them, you'd get something close to our Persona 4's cast. We've got the transfer student, the goofball, the tomboy, the in-heiress, the delinquent, the idol, and the pint-sized detective. As I said, it's like someone raided an anime trope warehouse, but bear with me, there's method to this madness. Take Yosuke, for instance. On the surface, he's your typical comedian character, the kind of guy who'd trip over his own shoelaces if it got a laugh. But let's go a little deeper and you'll find a kid struggling with feelings of inadequacy and a desperate need to be special. In any other game, he'd be the plucky sidekick. But here he's a fully realised character dealing with some heavy stuff. Then there's the dynamic duo of Chie and Yukiko. Their friendship is the kind that can survive anything, including Chie's questionable taste in kung fu movies and Yukiko's lethal cooking experiments. But it's also a relationship tinged with jealousy and codependency. It's messy, it's complicated, just like actual friendships, but most importantly, it's real. And let's not forget Kanji, the walking embodiment of appearances can be deceiving. Here's a guy who looks like he could bench press a car, but spends his free time knitting adorable stuffed animals. His struggle with sexuality and gender expectations hit like a sledgehammer, especially considering this game came out in 2008 and originates from Japan. Rise and Naoto round out our main cast, each grappling with issues of identity in their own way. Rise's trying to figure out who she is when she's not being an idol, whilst Naoto's challenging gender norms in a male-dominated profession. Within Persona 4, each of our cast has to go on to face their shadows, which are the main boss in the game. These are the physical manifestations of what we have within, our feelings. In most games, boss battles are just a test of your button mashing skills. Here, they're full-on therapy sessions, complete with repressed emotions and childhood trauma. It's like if your local therapist designed a dungeon crawler. Each shadow represents the part of ourselves we'd rather not face, our insecurities, our fears, our less than noble desires. And here's where Persona 4 really shines. It's not enough to just beat these shadows. You have to accept them. Acknowledge them as part of yourself. It's a powerful message about self-acceptance, delivered via the medium of turn-based combat. The TV world itself is a masterclass in metaphor. It's a realm shaped by human cognition, where our collective unconscious runs wild. Each dungeon is a reflection of its owner's psyche, Yukiko's castle, for example, is not just a generic medieval fortress, it's a gilded cage, all opulent tapestries and ornate furnishings. The winding corridors mirror the convoluted expectations placed on her, while the locked doors represent the choices she feels she doesn't have. And let's not forget the Shadow Yukiko, a princess waiting to be rescued by a Prince Charming. It looks like her subconscious took every fairy tale trope and twisted it into a cry for help. The whole dungeon screams, "I'm trapped in a role I never asked for. I'm trapped by expectations," louder than any voice dialogue ever could. These battles are not just physical, they're symbolic of the internal struggles we all face. Yosuke's loneliness, Kanji's struggles with masculinity, Rize's identity crisis. These are real, relatable issues that are externalized through their shadows. It's a reminder that self-acceptance often requires facing the part of ourselves we'd rather hide. As you progress through the main story, juggling your investigation with school life and social obligations, something interesting happens. The line between the supernatural and the everyday starts to blur. The problems you face in the TV world start to mirror the issues in the real world. The kid struggling with bullies? He's not so different from the shadow you just faced. The pressure to conform, the fear of being different, the struggle to understand oneself. These themes resonate throughout both worlds. Persona 4 uses its fantastical elements to explore very real, very human issues. It's asking big questions about identity, truth, and the nature of the self. Who are we really? How much of our personality is shaped by others' expectations? Can we ever truly know ourselves or others? Persona 4 has you balancing your mundane high school life with your secret career as a supernatural detective. And let me tell you, it's a juggling act that would make a circus performer sweat. You've got your social stats, knowledge, courage, diligence, understanding and expression. It's like trying to save the world whilst also remembering to feed your Tamagotchi. You'll boost these stats by doing exciting activities like studying, folding envelopes, and eating really big beef bowls. It's like the game is preparing you for the thrilling world of adult responsibilities. Save the world from cognitive monsters? Sure, but first, have you considered the benefits of a part-time job? Going back to the social link system, which is basically Friendship the RPG, you'll forge bonds with a cast of characters more colourful than a box of Lucky Charms, each representing a different arcana. These links don't just give you the warm fuzzies, they power up your ability to create and strengthen personas. That's right, the power of friendship is quantifiable in this game. Eat your heart out, My Little Pony. But here's the kicker. You've got a limited amount of time each day. Every action you take, every conversation you have, burns precious daylight. It's like the game is saying, choose wisely because you can't do everything, which, let's be honest, is a pretty apt metaphor for life. The social link system in Persona 4 isn't just a gameplay mechanic. It reflects the importance of human connections in overcoming personal and societal challenges. Through building relationships with friends and allies, the protagonist gains strength and insights that are crucial to the battles against the shadows. Each social link tells a story of growth and connection, emphasizing that we don't have to face our fears alone. The bonds we form with others can provide support and perspective, helping us navigate even the darkest times. So let's look at Inaba. At first glance, it's your typical JRPG town. A handful of locations, a cast of quirky NPCs, and more vending machines than seem reasonable for its population. But Inaba is more than just a collection of save points and item shops. Persona 4 does something remarkable with Inaba. It continues what it manages to achieve with the main cast, and it makes it feel alive. This isn't just a backdrop for your adventures, it's a living, breathing community, and like any small town, it's got more drama than a soap opera marathon. The rumour mill in Inaba works overtime. Every NPC isn't just a walking signpost, they're a potential source of information, or misinformation. It's like the developers looked at a small town and thought, you know what this needs? More baseless speculation and wild theories. As if a small town's needed help in that department. You've got your typical locations. The school, the shopping district, Junes, the big department store that lets you climb inside their TVs. But each of these places evolves over time. The shopping district struggles with the arrival of Junes, mirroring real-world concerns about big box stores in small communities. It's like watching economic theory play out in real time. Inaba changes with the seasons, and not just in the let's change the background art way. The activities available, the dialogues you hear, even the items you buy, they all shift as the year progresses. It's a level of detail that makes Inaba feel like a real place, with its own rhythms and cycles. But Inaba harbours secrets beneath its quaint facade. The rolling fog serves as nature's ominous foreshadowing, transforming familiar streets into something sinister, as if the town donned a creepy Halloween costume and forgot to remove it. This eerie atmosphere sets the stage for the Midnight Channel, Inaba's local urban legend turned supernatural phenomenon. It's the town's very own cryptid, akin to Bigfoot, but with the added dose of existential dread and fewer blurry photographs. As the investigation unfolds, the peaceful veneer of Inaba gradually peels away, revealing hidden truths and long-buried lies. This stark contrast between appearance and reality underscores a central theme. Even the most serene places can conceal deep-seated issues. The unravelling of Inaba's mysteries serves as a microcosm for the game's broader exploration of truth and deception, challenging players to look beyond the surface and question what lies beneath. And it's that which is another core aspect of this game: truth, seeking truth, both in solving the murder mystery and in the characters' personal lives. The investigation into the murders serves as a metaphor for the characters' own quests for self-discovery and understanding. The game's central theme is that truth is not always easy to accept or find, but it is essential for growth and healing. This pursuit of truth, despite the obstacles and discomfort it brings, is what ultimately drives the narrative forward. But Persona 4 doesn't just explore truth through its story. It cleverly weaves this theme into every aspect of its design, including its distinctive visual style. And speaking of visual style, let's talk about Persona 4's art direction. The game's colour palette is a perfect example of this approach. Drenched in warm, golden hues, Persona 4's visuals are a far cry from the cool blues and greys you might expect from a murder mystery. But this isn't just an aesthetic choice, it's a narrative one that reinforces the game's themes. The golden colour scheme represents illumination and the pursuit of truth, visually echoing the idea of bringing things to light, quite literally. The contrast between the real world and the TV world is where the art style really flexes its muscles. The real world is all warm tones and soft edges, creating a sense of nostalgia and comfort. It's like every scene is bathed in a glow of a perpetual golden hour, but step into the TV world and suddenly everything is harsh lines and garish colours. It's a visual representation of the game's themes of truth versus perception. The real world is how we want things to be. The TV world is the harsh reality beneath. Even the UI is dripping with style. The menu designs, the battle scenes, even the save menu, they all contribute to the game's overall aesthetic. It's not just functional, it's an extension of the game's themes. The shattered glass motif in the battle UI, for instance, mirrors the game's ideas about breaking through false perceptions. It's like even the menu is trying to tell you something profound. The dungeon designs deserve special mention. Each one is a twisted reflection of its owner's psyche. Each dungeon goes beyond mere aesthetic choices. They're intricate, psychological landscapes, where architecture and atmosphere combine to tell us more about these characters than words alone ever could. The distortions we see, the exaggerations, the contradictions, they're all reflections of the inner turmoil each character is facing. This approach to dungeon design doesn't just serve the narrative, it enhances the gameplay experience. As players, we're not just traversing levels, we're exploring the deepest recesses in the characters' minds. Every shadow defeated, every floor climbed brings us closer to understanding the true nature of their struggles. So what about the soundtrack? Take the battle theme, reach out to the truth. It's not just there to get your blood pumping during fights. Listen closely, and you'll hear the central themes echoed in the lyrics. Now I face out, I hold out, I reach out to the truth. It's like the game is giving you a pep talk, but every time you face a shadow. Who knew pep talks could have such a catchy beat? Then there's Your Affection, the cheery tune that accompanies your daytime adventures. It's bright, it's upbeat, it's completely at odds with the murder mystery that you're trying to solve, and that's the point. It underscores the duality of life in Inaba, the normal and the supernatural existing side by side. It's like the musical equivalent of This Is Fine, but it's not all upbeat tunes. Who's There plays when the fog first rolls in, and suddenly you're in a John Carpenter movie. The discordant notes and eerie vocals perfectly capture the sense of unease and mystery that permeates the game. It's like the soundtrack is saying, remember all that fun you were having? Well, here's your regularly scheduled existential dread. Remember it. Each major character gets their own musical motif too. Again, these aren't just cool tunes. They're auditory character development. Kanji's theme starts off as aggressive, but mellows out as you progress through a social link. Rize's is poppy and energetic, reflecting her idol persona, but with undertones of melancholy. It's like each character's inner journey has been turned into a leitmotif. As I'm wrapping up here about Persona 4, I do want to talk about its legacy. The influence of Persona 4 is perhaps most evident in its successor Persona 5. While 5 cranks up the style to 11 and trades murder mystery for phantom thievery, the DNA of 4 is clearly visible. The balance of daily life sim and dungeon crawling and the emphasis on bonds and personal growth is like Persona 4 was a template that Atlus has just been refining and reimagining ever since. But Persona 4's influence extends beyond its own series. Look at other Atlus games in Tokyo Mirage Sessions and other entries in the Shin Megami Tensei series. You can see echoes of Persona 4's approach of character development and thematic storytelling. It's as if Persona 4 said, hey, what if we made our own character development a core gameplay loop and the rest of the industry goes, write that down, write that down. Even Western RPGs haven't been immune to Persona 4's influence. Games like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, they've always had social elements, but post Persona 4, we've seen an increased emphasis on how these social bonds tie into character development and gameplay. Persona 4 really reminded everyone in RPGs the R stands for role and not just random encounters. And let's not forget Persona 4's own spin-offs, fighting games, rhythm games, anime adaptations. It's not like Persona 4 wasn't content with being just great. It then said, hey, I have to go excel in every genre. The fact that the characters in the world of Persona 4 can support such diverse spin-offs is a testament to the strength of its storytelling and character development. But perhaps Persona 4's most significant legacy is how it demonstrated that JRPGs could tackle complex themes and personal stories while still being entertaining. Games like Nier Automata and Final Fantasy XV, with their explorations of identity and personal growth, owe a debt to Persona 4's trailblazing. It's like Persona 4 gave permission to JRPGs to get philosophical without sacrificing the giant swords and spiky hair. What's truly impressive about Persona 4's legacy is how it's influenced games across the spectrum. From big-budget JRPGs to indie darlings, you can see its fingerprints everywhere. The way it blended everyday life with fantastic elements, how it tied character development to gameplay, its approach to tackling complex themes. These have become tools in many game developers' toolboxes. In the end, Persona 4's greatest legacy might be how it expanded our idea of what a JRPG could be. It showed that these games could be more than just epic quests to save the world, albeit that too. They could be intimate stories about personal growth, about facing your inner demons, sometimes literally, and about the bonds we forge and the truths we uncover. Persona 4 reminded us that sometimes the most heroic thing we can do is to face ourselves honestly and forge genuine connections with others. And if that involves summoning mythological beings to fight shadow monsters in a TV world, well, that's just part of the journey. As I reflect on Persona 4's impact, it's clear that the themes continue to resonate today. In our era of fake news, social media echo chambers and alternative facts, Persona 4's message about the importance of seeking truth feels more relevant than ever. The Midnight Channel isn't just a supernatural TV show anymore, it's Atlus's representation for how our perceptions can be manipulated by the media we consume. The game's treatment of personal identity also feels prescient. In a world where we're constantly curating our online personas, Persona 4's exploration of the masks we wear feels eerily relevant. The struggle to reconcile our true selves with the image we present to the world, that's not just a game mechanic anymore. It's a daily reality for many of us. Persona 4's emphasis on bonds and community also hits differently in our increasingly isolated world. In an age where we're connected more than ever digitally, but often feel more alone, the game's message about the importance of genuine human connection is downright therapeutic. Even the game's setting, a small town grappling with modernization, it feels pertinent in our globalized world. The tension between tradition and progress, the struggle of small businesses against corporate giants, these aren't just background details in Persona 4, they're ongoing global narratives. But perhaps the most enduring aspect of Persona 4 is its core message, the importance of facing ourselves honestly. In a world that often encourages us to hide our flaws, to present a perfect image, Persona 4's insistence on confronting our shadows feels almost radical. It's a game that says, those parts of you that you're not proud of, well, they're part of you too, deal with it. What's truly remarkable is how Persona 4 manages to address these heavy themes while still being fun. It's a game that can make you ponder the nature of truth one minute and have you laughing at how bears don't have human rights the next. It tackles existential dread and then lets you fold envelopes to improve your diligence. It's like the game is saying, life is complex, filled with joy and pain, profound truths and silly moments, but embrace it all. In the end, Persona 4's continued relevance speaks to the universality of its themes. The search for identity, the importance of truth, the power of human connection, these aren't just plot points in a JRPG, they're the ongoing struggles of our lives. Persona 4 just happens to explore them through the lens of a supernatural murder mystery in rural Japan. And maybe that's why we keep coming back to it, why it continues to resonate. Because beneath the supernatural trappings and JRPG conventions, Persona 4 is telling our story. It's holding up a mirror to our lives, our struggles, our triumphs. It's reminding us that growth is possible, that truth is worth seeking, and that genuine connections can give us strength. So the next time life gets overwhelming, when the fog of uncertainty seems too thick to navigate, maybe take a cue from our team. Face your shadows. Strengthen your bonds, and remember, sometimes the most powerful persona is the one you forge through self-acceptance and genuine connection.